This is the moment you have all been waiting for, the exciting part. Everything is gorgeous. It's TD42 build time, folks. We are back here at Donnelly Engineering. We've got Corey ready to rock. And as you can see, a whole bunch of performance parts, billet bits, and everything in between to make this a powerhouse, reliable, beautiful thing for our GQ Patrol. Despite this being my second or third engine, I still don't really know the order of what to assemble things in. Thankfully, we've got Corey. What are we starting today with?
First up, we'll put our crankshaft in, we'll check all our bearing clearances, then we'll set up, put our pistons on our rods, and check our bearing clearances on the con rods, and carry on from there.
Beautiful. Now you guys have probably seen that we don't have a head here. We've got Zach over here doing a little bit of finite fandangling to that. We've got some very exciting, sort of uncharted territory when it comes to TD42 heads that we're going to run you through later in this episode, so make sure you stick around. If you haven't seen the teardown episode of this engine in the last episode, go check that out. Anyway, roll the intro. Let's build this intro. Let's build this fucking intro. Build this intro. Learn how to do English. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling. Roll the intro and let's build this engine. We're starting with a lovely looking block, painted, fresh Welshies in there, looking absolutely schmick. These bad boys are step one. ACL main bearings. Now, there's a reason we run ACL race bearings.
They seem to last a lot better than other brand bearings on the market, in your diesel sort of aspect.
Yeah.
Other brand bearings we've seen cause detonation in the past. ACLs you can also get in more apparent sizes, so you can get extra clearance for your performance engine.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And I've never had an issue with them, so I've stuck with them.
True. And it's a fairly cost-effective upgrade, I think, as well, which is, if there's an upgrade available, if you're going to be pushing more power, always take it. The reason we're putting these in is because then we put the squirters and then we can put our billet crank. TDs, I guess, have a little bit of a habit when abused.
That's
to snap cranks. That's not to say they're the only engine out there. You know, you hear it a lot.
4Js.
I mean, anything can snap cranks. Really.
Anything can snap a crank.
Billet crank, couple of reasons why we're doing that.
One, we had an NA crank before.
Yep.
So
we needed to get a new crank regardless.
Sam wants bigger power, and as everyone knows, Sam's not friendly on his gear. Next option was you could go buy a genuine new crankshaft and spend similar money.
Yep.
So we went with the billet option. We've sold a few billet cranks in our time. We haven't had them snap. Saying that, anything is possible to break.
Yeah.
However, this is the option we've gone with.
Yeah. The end result is, no matter how good you build anything, I mean, even the one FZ that we built with Max, if we abuse that engine, it's of course going to let go. It doesn't matter how good you build something. If you're going to try and operate it outside what it was ever intended to do, you are running the risk. What we're trying to do here is just bulletproof this as best we can so that it can handle whatever we throw at it within reason. And I think by doing all these sorts of bits and pieces, it's going to really help the longevity of the thing and also allow us to push that sort of extra power. Because from factory, these things are like 150 horsepower. Maybe not even. So we're doubling the factory power output and probably 3 times the factory torque. So you're asking a lot of this old forklift motor, but here we are. So we'll whack these bearings all in nicely, we'll get the squirters in, and then we can drop the crank in.
Yeah, and we can check our clearances.
Beautiful. Very important steps here. Corey has just flexi gauged the main caps. We already knew that everything was Mickey Mouse, but we just wanted to double check. Obviously, Corey made a good point. Sometimes wrong bearings can be in wrong boxes, and you don't want to just be complacent with that sort of stuff. So we've used this before when we built the FZ, but flexi gauge is a pretty primitive but extremely accurate way to test bearing clearances by literally the thinnest little strand of wax. You drop it in there between the main cap and the crank, tighten that bad boy down to the torque spec, take it back off, and the amount it crushes gives you the bearing clearance. So you basically take that, line it up against the measurements that are up and down this piece of paper that looks kind of like a ruler, and that tells you. And as is the Donnelly engineering way, it was perfect. It was beautiful. What's the next steps?
Next step is we'll put some rods on some pistons and check our piston protrusions.
Oh, you yummy little fucking... Alright, quick update. We have got the billet crank in, done, tight, torqued up, ready to rock. All the clearances checked, end float, mwah, bellissimo. Next up is a very exciting bit, actually. We've got the spool forged H-beam rods. We've got the Japanese marl pistons. We're going to be assembling these and whacking them in the engine. This is very exciting. We're going to do all that. We're going to run you through why we've chosen this particular setup of rods and pistons and the intricacies about assembling them. If there's something I do really good, that is stopping efficiency and interrupting people when they're in the middle of concentrating. And this right now is no different.
He's not wrong.
Corey is balls deep in putting all of our pistons and rods into the block. But I figured now is as good a time as ever to quickly talk about the choices we've made this particular part of the build and compare it to something that is a lot sadder. But for starters, we're going to talk about why we've gone with the forged H-beam rods from Spool and those genuine pistons.
Okay, so first of all, this engine was a non-factory turbo engine to begin with. So for starters, you got a different little end bush size to a factory piston. 2, we're chasing a higher horsepower than a standard factory turbo would. So it's sort of a no-brainer to straight up go an upgraded rod rather than spending the same money on a factory rod.
Yeah.
2, you're upgrading to a ARP 2000 rod bolt that's 7/16 in diameter as opposed to a 3/8 rod bolt. They're a beautiful looking rod as well.
Yeah.
They balance up perfect. Never had any issues. Factory rod with the horsepower we're talking sometimes does.
Exhibit A. So this is not a TD. This is out of God's motor. Some would suggest FT. But this is bananaed. It's very subtle, but I'm sure you'll be able to see in the cutaways that it's bent. And that is, I guess, just from too much well, not this particular one, but generally with too much bunty, and the rod basically just bends under the pressures, right?
Too much cylinder pressure.
Too much cylinder pressure. So by upgrading to a forged rod like this, we're not going to have any dramas like that. You're going to have longevity, reliability, not going to be scared to be able to push that sort of power and jam that much boost into them, which is very exciting. But we had to basically take a little bit out of the top of the pistons, right?
So diesels have obviously such more high compression than a petrol will.
Yeah.
Everything has a specification with this engine. You've got your liner heights, you've got your piston heights, you've got your bearing clearances, etc. These engines have separate head gasket notch sizes for different piston protrusions. So each head gasket will have about a 2 thou in variation between piston protrusion. Being that we've surfaced the block, machine liner heights, we have now bought piston heights slightly higher. Plus we've got new rods, new pistons, etc. We then set up in the lathe and take a couple of thou off each piston to get them all to be bang on the exact height, so we have exact even compressions across all cylinders and exact specifications.
So for people that are just having a crack at this in the backyard, what they probably fail to realise is that if they go and get the block machined and they get themselves some new pistons or even the old pistons and they're just whacking them back in, you're going to have, they're probably going to be hitting valves.
You have very tight clearances between valves and pistons on a diesel, correct?
Yep, and too much compression.
Yeah, that's correct.
Probably going to be not that good.
Some people might say they've done it.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it's the right way to do it.
Yeah, big time. So really important to know that we're doing everything correctly with the best possible gear. All these parts supplied by you, so you know what you're working with and you know how to make them all work happily in unison, which is very nice. Gives us great confidence when we are beating on this thing in the near future. Anyway, we'll let you put this last boy back in and we can move on. Okay, now you guys probably would have remembered the 1F engine build we did with Max at HD Automotive, how the cams went together in the top of the engine. TD42s, apparently that wasn't good enough, so they've gone and done a little weird thing down here where the cam actually runs in the block here, held in with the two caps either end. We went the extra mile and replaced those cam bearings. It is a very tedious task, extremely difficult. The team have got it down to a fine art though, and it's definitely worthwhile doing. I mean, we're going through the process of doing everything else. It would have been silly not to do that last step. From this point on, we are going to start slapping in the backing plate, the cam gears, oil pump, front timing cover. Depending on where the head's at with Zach, we can either then chuck that on or we can move to the underside, do things like pickup and sump, which I'm about to paint and get it out of the hot wash. It's all coming together very quickly now. I'm super excited. The rocker cover's off getting painted. We've got our HPD billet breather to put on that, as well as our billet oil cap from PRP. I think this thing, when it's all together, is going to look absolutely mint. Everything is either brand new or refurbished or upgraded. Super keen. Okay, now there's a lot of different things you can do to TD42s to make them run more efficiently, cooler, give them longevity, make them happier in general. And one of those things that we did our research, spoke to a couple of boys and found out was this guy right here. This is a Dirk water pump. What is a Dirk, you might ask? Well, Dirk is an old man in Perth that has made it his life mission to understand TD42 cooling systems better than anyone else. So he does two different pumps. One is this, a blueprinted Dirk pump, and the other is a completely custom one that he builds from scratch. The custom ones from scratch, almost a year lead time, so he could not wait for that, but he does do these blueprinted ones about every 3 to 4 weeks, so we got our hands on one of these. He's done a whole lot of flow testing and a whole lot of, I guess, investigation and research into the cavitation problems that TD42s face, and modifies these impellers to basically negate that when you combine them with things like genuine thermostats, genuine thermostat housings, good quality coolant and all that sort of thing. What you can see in front of me is the old timing cover and our new timing cover. Now, there's two differences. For starters, this was for a non-turbo TD. This is for a turbo TD. These can be modified to work, but we figured we'd just go and get a new one. And the reason we decided that was because we pulled the water pump off the old one, and what you can see and what these pumps help negate is all this material on the inside of that water pump housing has actually started to eat away at this timing cover, and you can actually see that's just from boiling, scalding water and cavitation, basically just chewing it out. So we didn't want to go putting a really nice expensive water pump back on something like this and just have it cavitate and have issues when you can still get brand newies from Nissan, etc. Really interesting to see that water can actually do so much damage. So hopefully by combining a whole bunch of things, good coolant, the genuine thermostat housings, we've cleaned out the entire system and using this Dirk water pump, plus things like the UFI fan, UFI clutch and all that sort of thing, we shouldn't have any cooling issues with this little beastie. That'll go in like that. Everyone will be very happy and this will live a long and prosperous life. Huge first day here with the team at Donnelly Engineering, that's for sure. This thing is looking unbelievable. Just about done for the day. We're going to cover this over because obviously it is all exposed and we don't want any nasty sadness getting in there overnight. Now tomorrow is going to be another big day. We've got the sump. I've spent the afternoon sort of cleaning that up and painting it. That's drying overnight. Oil pickup can go in. We've got the head getting a bit more throating and flow work to be done. Some upgrades to go in it, which we will show you tomorrow. And then we can put the head on, rocker cover, a couple more billet little bling bits, and this thing will be a ready to rock long motor. Anyway, let's get out of here.
Tomorrow.
It's day 2 here at Donnelly Engineering. This is an exciting one because it is getting towards the pointy end of our brand new, upgraded, ultra mega gigawatt sexy TD42 build. And I was just about to say that I think we're getting towards the finishing line, but now that I'm thinking about all the things that we still have to do, there's actually quite a lot. We're going to go chat to Zach in just a second about the unique pressure testing that they do on the heads here at Donnelly using their very own design machine. We can kick today off. Okay, we're up here with Zach. This is the infamous Donnelly Engineering pressure tester. Now, there's a couple of really cool things about Donnelly Engineering. Obviously, for starters, they're the experts, but they have got all the machinery and some very unique machinery as well to do everything you could ever need to build engines and do it properly. And this machine is quintessential what we're talking about. Yeah. For starters, what are we even looking at machine?
It's essentially just like a big hot tank that runs pressure through it. We can run air, liquid. It can heat up to about 120 degrees.
Yep.
We do a 3-stage sort of test on it. So we start with just putting air. That's at about 38, 40 psi, depending if there's plates, funds, whatever else on it. Once we do the first air test, we just run cold fluid straight through it. Once the cold testing's done and that passes, we then heat it up. This thing also heats up to about 120 degrees. The dye that goes through it is like a really fluoro green sort of colour. So we use this little special light we got, and we just run over it. We get a few people to have a look at it too for us. It's always good to have someone to check over it. We run over all the ports through the cylinders, etc. And yeah, just make sure that she's good to go and there's going to be no issues with the cylinder head. So
you made a good point, is that if you just test these things cold, sometimes the crack won't open up enough until you just get that heat cycle through it,
so
and that's when you can find
heat
it.
it up too. That's why we do the 2-3 stage sort of process.
Once this gets the tick of approval, over to the bench.
Yeah,
start
so
putting
we'll
our
do the
gear in.
final cleaning process of it all.
Yeah.
All the valves are all in heights, everything backs up perfectly.
Yeah.
We've done all that little bit of minor port work to it all, so we'll get it all clean and we'll start the assembly process on the cylinder head.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is an exciting part.
Exciting,
because
very exciting.
We are, I'm going to say, not quite pioneering, but pretty close to, with this head on the TD, doing some exciting stuff that we didn't even think we were going to do for this build, but here we are.
Here we are.
This is our brand new head, aftermarket head, which we touched on earlier in the episode and also in the last episode. If you haven't seen that, go watch it now. We have been getting freaky. Well, Zach's been getting freaky with this.
Zach's been getting freaky.
What have we done to try and make this flow as good, if not better, than a genuine head and upgrade it holistically?
So basically what we've done is we've sat a genuine head beside this head. As we said, Nissan Japan's cancelled the genuine heads. So we've sat this head beside that head and we've throated out the ports, gotten rid of anything that can restrict flow and pretty much mimicked off the genuine head, but taken it a bit further. So this should really flow nicely, get us our power figures we want.
Yep.
And as a safe precaution, being that it's a bit of R&D, we've set up, as you've seen before, and pressure tested the head to make sure we haven't gone any further than we should.
Yeah, and it's come back all safe and sound, which means we could go through to our next step, which is valve springs, valves, collets, etc., which we're just about to finish up. But again, we're not stopping with factory stuff. It's important to remember, like, these things are 30 years old now. So
Absolutely.
we pulled the factory valve springs out of the head and they're pitted, surface rust,
rusty.
and it's not uncommon for these to break.
That's right.
And that would be catastrophic.
Absolutely.
So it's worth upgrading. We have gone with brand new valve springs, which are around 29.5% increase.
Yep.
Over in spring rate.
Yep.
And titanium retainers. And I think when we're going to be asking a lot of this little engine in terms of boost and overall power versus standard, I think upgrades like this are almost, like, you'd be silly not
it's
to.
a no-brainer, yeah.
It's a no-brainer. We've tested these in the spring rate tester too, and the old ones are around, what, 32 kilos?
32 kilos, yeah.
New ones are up closer to
46.
Yeah, like
At installment height.
at installment height. So really worthwhile to do. Obviously having all the tooling makes life really easy.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think this thing's going to have every possible hope and chance to really perform.
Plus, we've put a brand new set of valves in it as
Yeah,
well.
brand new valves as well. So everything's replaced in this thing. This is going to be like
Everything's-
better than new. I'm super pumped. Anyway, let's finish installing these and
Let's get to it.
we can party. Well, it felt like only just a few short months ago that Corey and I were daydreaming about building an incredible looking, epically performing TD42 for our GQ Patrol project. And for it to come into fruition now looking as good as it has is just a testament to the work that they have done in just a short week. I'm going to run you through every single thing we've done to this, top to bottom. It is just a work of art. From the bottom, that sump, perfectly restored, billet crank in there, going up to our spool forged H-beam rods. We have got our brand new genuine Marl pistons from Japan. Coming up into the head, we have got a stack of flow work, a stack of throating to make sure this thing breathes and gives us the best possible performance. We've got upgraded valve springs. We've got titanium retainers. We've got all this nice blingy billet stuff on top. The HPD breather, the PIP oil filler cap, new thermostat housings, new genuine thermostat, new genuine front timing cover, new genuine oil pump. We've got the TD42 turbo spec oil squirters down here. We have a Dirk water pump. We've even got a Ross Racing balancer. This has had the entire catalog thrown at it, all the works, and I think the end result speaks for itself in being an absolute work of art. You guys are probably just as keen as I am to get this in the car, and that will be coming in the very near future, so make sure you are subscribed. If you guys have a project, no matter how small or big, maybe it's a petrol engine, maybe it's a diesel engine, maybe you just want a factory rebuild, maybe you want to spice it up, come and see the team here at Donnelly Engineering. Corey and the boys are the experts at what they do. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up, load it up, get it up north, and we can start looking at putting it in the car. We'll see you next Thursday.